Welcome. My name is May.
And my name's Colleen. And today we're going to talk about how I organize my stash.
You won't want to miss this.
On this side of my yarn, I have thread for sewing. I have a couple of bins where I've put finished projects. Some of these need to be blocked, and some of them are ready to be put on our podcast. On this side of my yarn stash, I have some wire for jewelry making. I can also make stitch markers. I've got some buttons, I've got some yarn and I've got some elastic. This could make a lovely basket. And I have some beads to make stuffed animals in that bin. Right beside that, I have some things that involve sewing, some things that involve some knitting. So this has got a sweater care kit and a few bits of crochet cotton. I've got some interfacing for when I make project bags. I've got a little bit of things for jewelry making in the bottom too. And once again, I can make progress keepers or stitch markers as well. We're now going to talk about the numbered bins here because this is in fact my yarn stash, and I'll talk about a few other things as we work our way around. So what I did was I basically took everything out of this room, put it on the floor out in our family room that's in the basement, and then gradually went through and said, this I need to keep, this I need to get rid of. I purged a lot. I think there were 3 big garbage bags full of yarn. Now what I did with it, some of it went to Goodwill, some of it went to May's mom and May's mom's friend. So she just put it out on her bed and said, come take what you want. And that made me feel happy because it wasn't going to waste. So I really was thrilled about that. So when you look at number 1 and number 2, these are bins that involve fingering weight yarn. So sock yarn, there are some. What I tried to do with the sock yarn is if I'd bought 2 skeins to make a 2 skein shawl, I've wrapped them together. And we'll show you a little later what exactly one of these bins looks like. As I was putting it in the bin, I had this book, and in this book I started labeling. So for instance, it says number 1, fingering, and it says Ancient Arts, Socknado, Dalmatian. So what the yarn company, what the yarn was, and what the colorway was. And that helps me when I know, I think I've got something that goes with that, and I'll just grab onto that. When we get down to number 3 and number 4, we're looking at DK yarn. Number 5 is a little bit of some odds and ends. It's got some lace weight yarn, those kind of things. Number 6 has some sock yarn that doesn't involve wool, and it also has some DK yarn to make some baby things. When we head over to number 7 and 8, which is over here on this wall, then we have some worsted weight yarn. There's a little bit more sock yarn, and then over here we have all the chunky weight yarn. And it's all organized, and I have to admit, I was really good all the way up to the worsted weight, but 10, 11, and 12, I don't have organized exactly what's in those bins, but I know it's things like Shetland Chunky, it's things like Charisma from Michaels, which is lovely yarn to work with, and there's a little bit of Red Heart Soft, so that I can, which is, it is a worsted weight, but it doesn't have any wool in it, so that's where that is. Now you'll see a few other things around. So in this bucket, there's my blocking thing. So it's a bucket for blocking something and some of my blocking, they call them effective blocks, knit blockers is what they're called. In this bin over here, what I have is some yarn to dye, and it also has some yarn to felt, which we have to make sure we were careful with. And then at the very corner over there, which I'm not sure you can see, there are some things for making balm for your hands. So when you knit, if your hands get dry, then it's that. Up here, what I have, and I know this is going to sound a little crazy, is I have all these lovely ball bands. And the reason why I have those is when we do a podcast, we always show those. So I've got them organized, it's alphabetical, and it goes there. Now this is something that I had when I was working. I'm not working full-time anymore. So what I have done is anything that I've made, and usually this is baby stuff, I wrap it in a plastic bag and put it in there. So there's a hat and mitts. This is a little sweater. Here's some more hats and booties, those kind of things. And I just keep it in there so when somebody is either having a grandbaby or somebody's having a baby, then I can go into there and see. So it's kind of a nice little thing to do because every once in a while you need a small project to do. So that's that. Now May was kind enough to throw up some project bags. And she said, did you even know where these were? And I thought I did, but she told me that it was a different spot. So that's okay. I'm going to check in what's in here. I can feel there's probably some stock yarn because that's about what these sizes are. Now I'm going to show you one more thing that doesn't look quite as organized, but it is. And that is this lovely bag that was a pillow bag. And in there, I have taken a lot of knitting project bags and put them in so that they're staying safe, they don't get dusty. And then if I need a project bag, I can just grab something out of there. So that's what that is. So there is my yarn stash. And now what we're going to do is show you a bin so you can see how did I organize it inside. This is bin number 1. It probably is the most organized because it's where I started. It took me a couple of days to go through and purge and organize my stash. Obviously, we like the purple top. That's who I am. Let's take a look. So there it is all organized. Anything that has wool in it will be in a bag. And I went through a lot of baggies, but some of these I had used. So here is my book. So Ancient Arts, Socknado, Westlake Natural Dyes, Malabrigo Socks, Sweet Georgia Party of 5. They're all wrapped nicely. Now, if I had purchased 2 skeins of yarn to make a 2 skein shawl, I've put them in the same bag. And that just allows me to pick out this bag and know that I'm making a shawl of those. By the way, there's a shawl I have in mind. I might need to skein these up. These actually weren't even bought in the same place, so it has nothing to do with where I bought them. It's just if I bought the 2 things to make a 2 skein shawl, then I did that. And then that tucks in here as well. There's a lot of yarn in here. But as I said, in this book, it tells me color, it's organized, and lots of times when I see this, I can figure out where did I buy it, and it helps me remember, and it's organized. It tells me how many that there are, so some of them there's 2 of them. If it's one of a kind, it shows that, and it lists it all out. And then all the way to the end. So I could put a lot of fingering weight yarn in this bin. It's nice and organized. And if I'm not remembering, I know what that color looks like, so I know what I can find. Then this is bin number 2, and the whole book goes on that way. So that's my fingering weight yarn and its organization. That's how my stash is organized. I just want to remind you of my little book. And the reason for doing that is even going through this and filming this, I went, oh yeah, I forgot that I had that. So it's nice to have them listed, how many skeins you have, and it's a great way that if you're thinking about a new project, you can just go to the book instead of trying to dig through all your yarn.
I know, Colleen, and the other before you had bins that weren't see-through or anything, it was a problem. And these are see-through, which helps too. Do you find that?
Absolutely. So to be honest with you, I had numbered about 6 of them, and then I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know which bin's what. So it's very helpful to have them see-through. I went and bought bins specifically for that, and it has made a big difference.
And they stack so nicely too.
They do. All right, so most of them are the same size. Sometimes they're a little bit off, but the gist of it, I came home one day with these bins that were almost as big as I was, and we decided there was no way I could carry those from one point to the other.
Right.
So those bins had to go back.
Right.
I hope this helps you. I hope it inspires you to organize your stash. Until next time,
You take care.